and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Up next in the studio, I'm joined by Bruno Estier. Bruno, thank you very much for popping back in.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Now, the equity markets in Europe rose above their August high. Is this something that you foresee happening worldwide?
Well, let's have a look at where the index worldwide is for the last 10 years. We had a high in 2007 and a big crisis, and since we are still below these major highs, which are on the Dow Jones World Index around 320, 25, so we are still around 300. And what is interesting is that we have been able to make higher lows and higher highs, and especially recently, we are able to move just above the May high. If we look a little bit closer on the weekly charts, what we see is that technically the people like me are going to draw a lot of lines, showing that you are more on the top part of your big channel than on the lower part. Okay, on the lower part we were in July, again quickly at the end of August, and now September is moving up very fast. It's moving up, making almost the highs, but we also noticed that we are close to the top of the Bollinger Band. That means a situation which is overbought.
The equity momentum is rising since early September, really. Are there signs corroborating this bullish anticipation of global growth?
Well, that's exactly the question that many people are trying to put together. They look at different things. We had in past interviews looked at on the upper part, the base metal index and the copper. We call that Dr. Copper because it's a leading indicator of demand for China in particular. Here we have something pink on the charts, which are the evolution of the interest rates since 2004. And what we notice, of course, is this recent rise of interest rate in 2013 from a very low base at 1.5% to about 3%. And this black line. And what is this black line? It's the Baltic Dry Index. That's a shipping index which shows how much trade there are worldwide. And if we look closer to the year 2013, we noticed, in fact, that indeed, together with rising interest rate, the Baltic Dry Index, especially since June, has been trying to push up and corroborating, if you wish, the fact that there are more demand. Copper has been making a base, okay, and together with that, if we look at the anticipation of these two information in the ETF from China, for equity for China, we see that they have broken a downtrend and they are starting to move up. So the big worry that China would not drive or carry the whole growth process is probably abating a little bit. But we need to be careful because we are at levels which are relatively high.
Given this global interaction then that we're seeing, can we expect the US markets to hit new highs? And similarly, how far exactly could it go?
Well, last time we mentioned that the European market, eventually the Japanese market, were leaders in making new highs, or at least above their August high. The S&P was lagging. It is still below 1709 as of yesterday night, but it is getting very close, and probably one cannot exclude to make a marginal new high in direction of this resistance trend line, the blue line on the top. This means 1717, 1720 possibly. However, the momentum which has been rising since September could be in a situation where if it fails, that means if the enthusiasm is too big and the price action doesn't confirm the enthusiasm for the bullishness, that means it's moved back below 1680, for example, then we will have some problems. And if we look now, what kind of problem could we have, right? There are two possibilities. Either we make a new high and then correct back down, or we just, from this level currently, from 1707, go straight down. That's not very clear. Possibly the way the momentum is still here, we have to go with a difficult path, which is the blue one, which is making a new high, probably attracting too many people into a bullish territory or bullish sentiment, and then going sideways at the end of the year.
Are you not adopting a slightly contrarian view, expecting a fall in the fall?
Well, that's true, but that corresponds basically to our long-term view. In one of the first interviews, I mentioned the long-term cycle. There are two big cycles, a 4-year cycle. The last time it bottomed was in 2002, all the way on the left side of this chart. And there is a second cycle, which is an investment cycle, the longer 10-year cycle, or 9 point something. And the key interesting thing in 2012 was that at the end of 2011, okay, we had a bottoming of the 10-year cycle. So still a recovery in sight. However, something is a problem here. The problem is that we come from a low in 2009, and it's already 54 months we are away from that major low. And since we have made higher highs and higher lows and no strong correction more than 10% or 12%. Therefore, the likelihood that it could correct into the year 2014 is relatively elevated. Of course, later on, we do hope that this correction will be relatively modest. That means we will never go back to 66, but probably from the top to the bottom, we could expect something like 25%. That would bring us in the area of 1100 on the S&P. Later on, things are much more rosy.
Bruno, thank you very much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Bruno will be back with us next Tuesday, but don't go away. We've still got plenty more exclusive interviews for you coming up on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye for now.